Welcome to Mind Yourself, a podcast sharing real life stories from real people, alongside conversations about mental health and emotional well-being. Listener discretion is advised, as this episode may include themes some listeners may find distressing. Wherever you're joining us from, whether you're walking, driving, or taking a quiet moment for yourself, you're very welcome here. Let's get started.
Veronica Martinez, you are very welcome here to Four Swans today, all the way from Madrid in Spain. Veronica, you are one of our psychotherapists here at Four Swans, specialising in perinatal mental health.
Yes.
You're also a mum yourself, 2 twins, age 7. Would you like to bring us back to maybe your own transition into motherhood and what that was like for you on a personal level?
Okay, yes, no problem. So it was a bit crazy, like we all expect to jump into motherhood. For me, it was planned. Like I wanted to be a mother for so long, and we were looking out that we didn't have to wait too much for that to happen. But it happened faster than I thought it would, and that was a bit of a shock for us, for me especially. So it took me a bit to get ready, like for to that, like for us was like, because I started trying young enough, I was told I was going to have some problems with fertility. I have a malformation in my uterus, so we didn't know what's going to happen. So I was planning, so my plan was always like, okay, we just start trying for a year, and whenever that doesn't work, we try IVF, and then if it doesn't work, we go to adoption. So we need to start now, and it happened way fast. So I was very shocked. I was like, that was supposed to be in 2-3 years time. So what was happening now? So it was crazy. And then it was like a roller coaster, because then everything went so fast. And then I was feeling very sick at the beginning. So I got the permesis gravidia, whatever is said properly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was unable to eat anything.
So hyperemesis gravida is when you're vomiting all the time, feeling sick all the time.
You are nauseous all the time. You're getting sick constantly. I had to go to A&E for dehydration, so I had to get fluids into me until I got medication. So that was tough, because again, you're starting, and that's kind of bring you into the window of how motherhood feels, because you feel constantly crazy, like all the ambivalence that you're supposed to be drinking 2 liters of water, but then your body is not even able to hold a glass, and you're supposed to be eating healthy, but every time you eat, you're getting sick. So it's like, how am I gonna survive this? How am I gonna take care of these babies when my own body is kind of going against them? So that was kind of the first kind of shock, probably. Like things are not gonna work the way they're supposed to, or technically they're supposed to, and trying to find maybe professionals that will support you through that without, it's normal to have nausea in pregnancy, or is it normal to feel sick, and then you are going there and constantly feeling that this cannot be normal, and what did they call it, morning sickness? I'm sick all day, every day. So that was kind of a bit shocking. But like that, eventually I went to A&E. They actually got me medication then for the nausea, and that kind of opened her.
And were you still working and trying to navigate
I was working
a job? And
yes, and like that, I didn't tell anybody I was pregnant yet, because again, like I say, I was very likely to either have a miscarriage or early birth or things like that. So so I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody until I got very sick, so I had to tell my boss. It's like, no, I'm gonna be missing dates. So and like that, I didn't miss too many. I was always pushing, like, oh, just because I'm pregnant, I don't want to, that kind of women culture, that you have to be there. Like, you're not weak. You can't be. You're a bit sick. It's fine. So I keep pushing, but it was fine.
Yeah, and pregnancy takes an awful toll on a woman's body, doesn't it? But there is an expectation there that a woman should just be able to keep going, to keep managing, to keep getting through it, going to work. And, for some women, that's not possible.
No, and like that, some people might have to be in sick leave for a long period of time. It depends of how do you feel, and how, again, I was lucky enough to get the medication early on, so like I didn't have to go through, but I wouldn't have been able to hold that for too long, because you're not eating, you're not drinking, you're getting tired at the day, and and you need that support, so like it was that. And my boss was very supportive, But like I remember one of my colleagues, a couple of people that they knew, they were like, "Oh Jesus, you just tell us you're pregnant, now you're sick," like typical kind of, that kind of sense. And it was a bit like, okay, it's not that I don't want to be sick. I'm happy to come to work. It's not that I don't want to be here. If I'm not coming, it's because I'm really feeling very bad.
And in society in general, if we move forward now to when women have the baby, there is that expectation, isn't there, that the mother should be perfect, be a natural, it should be able to have it all, but it can be really challenging.
And it is, and it's impossible. It's a really high expectation, and you can't live to those standards, not without burning yourself in the process. And that's where you're going to get all the time, like mothers that are completely burnt out in all the sense of life. You're trying to, you're expected to work like you don't have kids. And, this is the typical, but you're expected to be taking care of your kids like you're not working. And like that, maybe in a society like we have ages ago, like, one salary could support the whole family, and a mother might wanted to be at home with the kids. That was okay. It could happen, but not that the way that we are living now. Like, you cannot have... most of people, won't be able to hold the whole household with one salary.
Yeah.
Or we might not be able to just be dependent on somebody else, because if something happened, then you're screwed. Like, what happened if the relationship doesn't work and you are completely dependent on that person, then you're stuck there and you cannot leave, So we are completely expected to do everything like it was done before, but they also are expecting us to be super independent and then have our own, and that we want to have our own ways and do whatever we want to do with our lives, and still be able to be mothers only full time and do everything perfect. And that's just not possible. Like before, we have more support, like, you have community, villages, you have mothers supporting mothers because they were all available. I don't know if they did it here in Ireland, but in Spain we used to have milk brothers, which means if a mother couldn't breastfeed, somebody else that have a kid will breastfeed their child. So there was that support. Now you cannot breastfeed, you either are a bad mother because you're giving formula, or you haven't tried hard enough, so you won't have anybody there to help you. I don't even know if it will be seen as a good thing now, but that was the support you have. It wasn't even weird. It was just everybody was there for everybody else. And now
it's no surprise then, Veronica, that with the pressure that there is on mothers, that they neglect their own needs when they're so busy trying to be the career woman, trying to be the mother, trying to be the partner, the wife, the colleague, that their own needs get put to the bottom of the pile all the time. Do you think social media has a role to play in this and its expectations of what motherhood is
totally.
like?
Yeah, like you have some good, accounts that we might get to be more realistic. But generally, when you are seeing constantly, and again, this is if you have the time and you want to do it, it's perfectly fine. But when you're seeing people all the time putting these healthy, lovely bento lunches with the stars and turtles and things like that, and you're basically trying to get just the food cook, and to make sure that it's kind of near healthy, it's very complicated, because then you feel you're failing. Or you see these people that, like, again, now I'm very nice dressed today, but I generally on my tracksuit, bobbing the head, no makeup, just running out of the door, trying to get kids, like anything that is comfortable to move around. So when you are seeing all these people just looking so perfect, and then their kids looking so perfect, and you're there like, what am I doing wrong? How I'm not able to live with these standards. Like I'm barely surviving or getting out of the door on time, or so yeah, absolutely. And what you are seeing in social media is this perfection, which again, it might not be even real. These houses can look like a magazine, perfect, clean. Basically I have milk all over the walls, and the floor and the sofa, and it doesn't matter how much you clean, it's always a mess, So it does not help. I don't think so. I think it just makes it worse.
Do you think it creates that compare and despair mentality then, where everybody else seems to be managing and I'm not, which reinforces any sense of not coping?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like that when you see pictures of people being pregnant, they all look so happy, they all look so nice, and then you're there maybe or very sick, or you're not enjoying your pregnancy for whatever reason. Like not everybody enjoy it, and even if you go into or neurodivergency, and that some people like really feel strange having something growing inside the body. So when you're only seeing this perfection out there and everybody feeling so happy and it's not your reality, you feel very lonely, and then you feel there's something wrong with me, how am I not feeling this way? And that I don't think is helpful at all.
Veronica, you've spoken about postpartum anxiety and intrusive thoughts. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. So, sorry. So yeah, like a lot of people will be diagnosed, with depression, postnatal depression, but a lot of times it's anxiety and intrusive thoughts. Like for me, that was my case. I was in some point diagnosed with postnatal depression, but it wasn't. It was anxiety, and it was basically intrusive thoughts for everything. So some people might have intrusive thoughts about, for example, waking up in the middle of the night and thinking that they have suffocated the baby, that they might have a sleep on top of them, or they are rolling a blanket, even when they are not co-sleeping. The baby might be in a completely different room, but the image they get might be that. And it can happen all the time with that. One of them will be that. Other one will be harming your baby. You are just preparing your food, and suddenly for some reason, you see that knife falling, on top of the baby, or, and killing the baby and things like that. It can be very distressing because again, you feel like, I might want to harm my baby when there is no. It's just every danger you can see is there, and your mind is kind of sending you these kind of pictures or flashback or just thoughts suddenly, and they can be very distressing. Or like, the more, sorry, I let out of breath. The more typical one could be like dropping, the baby, or the baby's gonna fall on my hands, like it's gonna sleep. It can be very one that a lot of people might have, or that you're gonna fall with the baby, and again, it's always gonna end up with the baby being extremely hurt or dead.
Yeah,
they're really scary thoughts to have.
They're
to
very
think that
scary.
you may harm your baby, or your baby may come to harm.
Yeah.
But they're normal thoughts, aren't they?
They are very normal. Even sometimes people might have even tone of sexuality in there, like they might feel like the image of what if it, what if I'm changing my baby and suddenly, I feel like something might change, and they can be very scary for the person that has them. Some people have them. It's like, not like OCD, but similar in that sense. Like some people might have these thoughts of harm. Some people might have these kind of sexual feelings, or somebody, and they are fears, but they are not real, and they usually go against, to the contrary of what would you ever do, like poison, like, or things like that. Or what if I'm doing the bottle and I just put bleach on them, and it's not real. That will be typical for OCD, but it can be also in a less intense level happening with intrusive thoughts and anxiety. In postpartum, it can be reflected to not only with intrusive thoughts, but maybe with control. For me, it was very controlled routines. Like if the bottle feed has to be at 6 in the morning, it has to be at 6 in the morning. It cannot be at 7, it cannot be at 5, it has to be 6, and everything was like, and it's nap time, and it has to be now, and I cannot be out of the house, it has to be now. I wouldn't be able to do anything outside of my own schedule for fear of, if I change something, they might not sleep, or they might not eat, or they might, So you get into this rabbit hole, which controls your whole life.
It's such an overwhelming experience to have a baby, particularly your first.
Yes.
Like I remember having my first baby over 25 years ago and just being completely overwhelmed with the sense of, how am I going to do this? How am I going to look after her? I'm responsible now every day for at least 18 years in making sure that she's fed and protected and looked after and nourished. And I was quite a young mum as well. I was 22 when I had my first baby. So that sense of overwhelm is real, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yet women are expected to, you see them photographed with the makeup done and the hair done, looking perfect, presenting to the world like, this is so easy, this is so, it really doesn't help anybody who struggles. The hormonal fluctuations are real as well, aren't they? Like there's so much to deal with. Yeah,
and then you have the baby blue at the beginning, and people need to know, like for the next couple of weeks after you have a baby, you're more likely to be crying about something silly, about something that doesn't make any sense. Your emotions are going to be all up and down, and it's just actually normal. There is nothing pathologically wrong about that. It's just the normal. All your hormones have dropped, and then suddenly you have been, for being on your own, to just minding this little thing 24/7. And it's not just minding them in a good way, like happy easily. Their life depends on you in so many ways, and then you are sleep deprived, you're very tired. Even in a good birth, you're gonna be so sore Like nobody tell you. Like I remember the couple of days after, I was like, my whole body hurts. Why? It's just pushing so hard. Like I didn't really, you realize it's exercise. Like you're basically, like if you're going to an intense session to the gym and you're coming back, you're going to be sore for a week. That's the same giving birth. You're pushing so hard, something
And
out
you
of your
didn't just
body.
have one, you had two.
Yep. But the second came just easy, the first one just opened the way. So it's a very strong experience, and again, you might not feeling even well. Like again, like you might have stitches, you might have a C-section, and then you are trying to get recovered from a major surgery, while minding something that literally depends on you for survival.
And in those early days as well, all the visiting, family, neighbours, friends,
Jesus, that's a crazy one.
coming in to see you. You're trying to get to know your baby. You're trying to get into a routine of feeding, and it can be very intense initially, can't it? That sense of everybody wanting to come and see you, and
Yeah, and like that's probably one of the worst things I'll say within all, not the pathological diagnosis things that, you're trying to find out who you are. You're trying to meet this baby in front of you. Like some people might fall in love with them straight away, but some people might don't. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to do when I'm not feeling this love that I'm being told I need to feel? And it's not necessarily happiness straight away. And some people might be like, oh, some people, I don't feel that. Again, is there something wrong with me? And no, it's not. It's just, again, this new person has come to your life and you don't know them. You don't know how you're going to get on with them. It's not a choice of personalities. You might have a really easy baby and, will make your life much easier. And you might have a really hard baby. And again, it's not their fault, but you might have a colicky baby that is constantly crying and you're not sleeping. You're going to struggle way more. Like if you have a baby that sleeps, 5 hours in a row or things like that. So, and then you have all these people coming and trying to see you, and you might be recovering, you might be in pain, you might have sleep 2 hours. You might want to go to sleep, and then they want to see the baby. And then maybe as women, we have this kind of integrated that we need to be there, we need to be present, we have to be, do you want a coffee, you want to tea, you need to be nice. And you might don't want to be nice, you might just want to be like, will you just go? I just want to sleep. I want to be left alone. I want to try to connect with this little baby without interruptions. And some these people, again, they might do it out of love and excitement, but they are not thinking about the mother. They are just kind of thinking just about the baby or their own needs that might be meeting the baby. So it's about trying to ask. But again, if you say, no, I don't want anybody to come over, like, oh, Jesus, just too much,
It's a wonderful time, but it's also a very challenging time for all those reasons that you've explained there. Can I just come back quickly now to the intrusive thoughts part? Because I think that's something that a lot of people listening might be able to relate to and find it difficult to talk about. So I think it's important to address that. Yeah. It can be terrifying, some of those thoughts and some of those images that you've just described. What role does shame play in stopping women from speaking up about this?
Oh God, well, first of all, you might think bad about yourself first. Like, I feel that there's a part of me that want to hurt this baby, because I'm struggling, or why otherwise I will be getting these images. And, that's where it got very hard. But then you also have the fear of saying it aloud, because again, make it real. B, you might say to someone, they look at you like, oh, that's not very normal, is it? But they might, it is actually. It's just we don't really know, but it is actually normal. And then the fear of when you are saying this, imagine you go to your practitioner and you're feeling shameful about this, and they look at you like a bit, oh, because they might not be updated into these intrusive thoughts, so they don't know about them. And the next thing, the fear that mothers will have is like, what if they report me and take the babies from me? Because they think I'm actually going to hurt them. So that's probably one of the things. Or they don't feel I'm going to be able to take care of this baby, with depression and everything like that. So that's some things what stop them to come for help, because what if, somebody think this is not normal, or it is not normal, and then they take it from me, So, it can be a big fear.
Yeah. So if there was a mother listening right now who was feeling scared about some of the thoughts that they were having, what would you want them to hear?
But there's nothing wrong with you. That's not you. That doesn't reflect on you as a mother. That doesn't reflect on you as a person in general. It's just something that is happening that can be absolutely and 100% normal. And if you are listening, just ask for help. And if you're unsure where to go, look for people that is trained, like there is very good, midwives. It's, there is so many very good GPs out there, therapists like myself, but, there is a lot of people that actually train on that. And don't listen only, just because somebody is a therapist or somebody is a GP or somebody is a midwife, doesn't mean that they are going to know it all, because sometimes, again, we don't know all. I don't know everything about everything. I do have a lot of knowledge maybe in this area, but if you ask me about other stuff about inside of psychotherapy, I might not, addiction. I don't might know not enough for you or for me to tell you what to do or what consider is normal or not, because I don't have the knowledge.
Like yourself, Veronica, I work with a lot of pregnant clients, and what I always encourage them to do when they go off to have their babies is when they have their 6-week check with their GP, to maybe check in with their therapist, just to take stock of how they're coping, how they're managing, how they're feeling. Something that we do here as well in Four Swans is that we welcome women to bring their babies to therapy sessions up to a year old. I think women can feel very isolated and they feel that they can't get support sometimes because maybe they're on their own and they've no childcare or support, or they feel that they can't bring their baby to therapy. So that's something that we do here to try and help. I think normalising it is really, really important, and checking in on your mental health as well as your physical health at that kind of critical 6-week point.
Yeah, because again, you will be still in probably baby blues anyhow. So it will give you at least a sense, maybe from the therapist perspective, is normalizing what you're feeling right now is normal. And then getting the pointers is like, if these go over for maybe 1 month, 2 months, and it's still the same, or if, feel, because at the beginning, probably the higher risk for maternal mental health will be, and again, it's very unlikely to happen, but it's there. It's the psychosis, and that needs to be okay. So maybe check what things we need to be concerned about. If you're starting to have maybe suicidal thoughts and you don't have it, or you start to believe in yourself that the baby will be better without you and things like that, those are red flags. That needs to be checked. And maybe people is not conscious, but suicide is the first way of dying for women, first time mothers that are not, medical related, like it's not an illness like that. Because again, all these, constantly thoughts that you might be having that you don't think they're normal, or, the lack of support and all these things. And then eventually they really believe the baby will be better without them, or their family will be better without them, and somebody will mind them better. And it's something that people is not conscious about for suicide.
That's a really important point that you're making there. I know what we're saying here today is that these thoughts can be quite normal and not to be afraid of them. But for a small minority of women, postpartum psychosis is a real thing. It does need very specialist support and intervention. So it's knowing, I think, just being able to ask for help at any point.
And without the judgment, again, like people that is trained, they will be able to help you. And then people recover from this, and there is still, I know they are in the way they are trying to get one here in Ireland, a mother and baby unit. They have them in UK, they have them in other countries, and hopefully soon it will be some in Ireland too. And what they do is just to put in the hospital the mom and the baby, and again, they will be connected with professionals that will be able to help them through the process without, destroying that bonding relationship,
segregating them.
So there are things in the way, there are things that are changing, thanks God, and we are getting more knowledge about the area. So, but don't be afraid to talk to your professionals. And again, if you are not sure if your professional knows or they are not up to date, because again, like in every profession, you might find some people that are really good and they are constantly on it and training and knowing everything. But just because somebody says something, if you are not sure, just look for a second opinion, because again, we can do a lot of good, but we can also do a lot of harm if we are not properly, trained. And you will find, again, professionals that might advise things that are really old-fashioned, like we know they are not true anymore. So it's about, don't doubt yourself. If you are not sure, just check. And if you need to recheck, check as many times as you feel that is enough for you.
Veronica, I just want to ask you a little bit about matrescence.
Yes.
Which is a fairly new concept that people are starting to become more aware of. I heard this gorgeous quote a few years ago, which has always stuck with me, which is that when the baby is born, the mother is also born. That before the baby, the woman existed, but not the mother.
Yes. I can't remember the name of the guy.
How does becoming a mother impact a woman's sense of self or identity?
Okay, so like for a starter, we need to be conscious. It's not even only a transition, like life transition as a good, it's also a physical change. So through the whole pregnancy, your brain is changing. Like it's like they call it matroscience, it's like matroscience, like it's between mother and adolescence, because your brain go to a similar process, like all your neurotransmissions, all your connections are changing. Like it's a great time. Actually, a lot of people fear therapy with the pregnancy, but it's actually a great time sometimes to process things, because everything is already changing. So it's just, let's go and create new pathways, in your trauma or whatever, just to fix it. So your brain goes through this crazy amount of changes. So you are going to be different, even if you don't want to, or even you think you are not going to be. Everything is different. At the same time, everything is the same. And then again, you get this new person in your life. You go through all the pregnancy, then it came out of your body in whatever way, And then you're going to spend a lot of time with this little baby or babies, and, it's going to change the way you see life. It's going to change the way you prioritize life, It's going to change you no matter how much you try to stay in your old self. I think it's impossible. Sorry.
And it can sometimes trigger trauma as well, can't it?
Yes.
If you had abandonment as a child, or maybe adverse childhood experiences, or bereavement or loss of your own parent, it can bring a lot of things to the surface, can't it? Maybe unresolved grief, or...
Yeah, and it reactivates some areas that you might have in grief because you didn't see them before. So let's say you had lost your mom, like you are creating this, this relationship, and then you're going to try to, even again, if you don't want to, your brain is going to reevaluate your relationship with your mom, and it's going to reevaluate that. And then that's the person, again, I'm not talking about people that have, narcissistic mothers or things like that, just in kind of a normal sense. You're going to want to ask this person for advice, and if he's not there, that's going to create like a different type of wound, because you can't complain, you can't ask, you can't say, you don't have somebody to mind you, maybe, because again, we are taking care of the baby, but who is taking care of us, and then that, my mom would have loved to meet the baby, or I would love my mom to meet the baby. So it is definitely reactivating things. And again, like I lost my father when I was 18. So I always think, oh, God, he would have loved this. He would have loved to see. And I would love them to meet my dad, but it's not going to happen. And that it just reactivates some areas of the grief that you didn't ever have otherwise. Like if I didn't have kids, that never would have happened. So, it does definitely reactivate those areas.
And so, like, becoming a new mother is a real period of transition for a woman. How can we best support a new mother?
Okay, so I think is checking in. Like one of the biggest thing I think for new mothers, or not new mothers in general, for mothers, is loneliness. You spend so much time, again, with a little baby, just taking care of this person, and they're not talking back to you. They might be crying, but you cannot have a chat. You only changing nappies, feeding, or your life become this thing, and then before you have other interests, you have other parts of your life, So just having somebody sometimes just maybe to check in that you have eaten, or bring you some food without even asking, just showing up. Or even if you want to ask, before showing up, or you just, look, I bring you this food and I'm gone, if you need anything. But checking in, because if you need anything, just let me know. It's always kind of false, and it kind of fades away, because again, you are giving all this choice to the mother only, but sometimes we are not able to ask for this help, or we are not able to articulate what we need. So sometimes just it's about just showing up, even for 2 seconds, and I was in the shop and I just got a cooked chicken just for you, just in case, something like that. It's simple. It doesn't take, or just bringing a coffee. So it will help, and it feels you seeing, like, because we forget about the mothers. We just, again, focus on the baby. People comes to see you, and they're not coming to see you. They're just coming, hey, what is the baby? And, they want to pick it up, but nobody's checking on you. Nobody's checking how you're feeling, how you doing.
It can be so hard if you've been working full time or had a very active social life, and all of that completely grinds to a halt very quickly.
Yeah, because like that, and it creates a lot of arguments, I think, with partners sometimes, like, oh, I'm so tired too, and that, yeah, but you get out to drive 20 minutes to your workplace, listening to music, thinking about your own stuff, then you get there, see other people, do your job. Well, I'm here at home, and I'm just literally, my whole life is just to make sure that I don't kill them or they don't die, they don't do anything silly when they are small. That's different. Like, I'm constantly in high alert, even, when they're asleep, you might be like, are they breathing? Gotta check now. So you're not very relaxed, but when you're driving away and you're going to work, you don't have to think of anybody else's surviving. And I used to go to college on the Saturdays, so I used to love that. I would just go in the car, listen to music. It's like, oh my God, I can't think about something that is not the babies, because right now there is somebody else minding their survival. It doesn't depend on me. And that gives you so much freedom, because again,
I remember how pushing a trolley around Tesco on my own with no kids was like the ultimate freedom.
yeah.
I used to love it.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds silly, but okay. And again, that actually is a great example, because again, we might enjoy it, but that's not self-care. And you have something, people like, oh, I'll mind the baby and you can go shopping. Like, I don't want to do groceries. I want to do something else. It's not fun. Okay, I know I might be enjoying it more than that, but that's not self-care. Or, oh, I'll mind the kids for 5 minutes so you can have a shower. It's like, I should be able to have a shower every day without having to either ask for a favor or feel that this is the best thing of my life. It's a basic need. And sometimes we forget is just self-care, or taking care of a mom is more than just let them go shopping alone for groceries or just having a shower. And it's very typical, and it will create, again, a lot of conflict between partners. It's like, well, I mind the case where you're having a shower. It's like, oh, thank you. I love that, but I may need just to go with my friends to have a coffee, or I may need you to just take care of the kids so I can just go and read a bit or have a nap or whatever I might need. Have a hot meal instead of just whatever I can eat while I'm holding a baby, or so it's complicated. And like that is a bit sometimes lack of understanding.
So what does compassion towards yourself as a mother look like in real life?
So what does it look like? So that's a great question, actually. Just knowing that you don't have to be perfect. At the end of the day, what we're aiming is like, yeah, to try to keep of kids alive, but they don't need to eat either everything organic. They don't need to, eat everything in the whole, every veg that you can think of. Sometimes it's just about being there, and you can be there in your PJs. You can even be there if you didn't have a shower, and you can be there even if, you're feeding them with a pouch that you bought in the shop that is already made, and that doesn't make you a bad mother. Like sometimes you might prioritize taking care of the baby, cleaning the house, or might you change your expectation of what clean house looks like? Like sometimes, I used to wash my bed clothes every week. Now I do every 2 weeks. 1 week is my bed, and then next week is the kids, and and that's it. It's not my perfection, but it's good enough. Like, it's not like they're dirty or very dirty, So it might change a bit, and it's just to try to adapt to that. And sometimes you might even go 3 weeks without washing the bed, and it's not the end of the world. Maybe the kids were sick, or you were sick, or you were not feeling well, or things change, and we need to just go with it. And one day, again, this will move away. It's not going to last forever. And try to remember that. Like, now we are struggling a lot with this, but it's not going to be like this forever. The house is not going to be a mess forever. And then, the day that is not a mess, probably I will miss the mess. All the toys, because again, they will be gone. They will be not Lego to step on when we are walking, because the kids might be gone with their girlfriends and boyfriends and living somewhere else. Well, not these days. They probably live with us until they're 40, but who can afford a house?
There was a big study back in the 60s by Winnicott, who, which is still very relevant today, and the research proved that a child really only needs one good enough caregiver in their life.
Yeah.
And there's no need for perfection, really. I think maybe that's what new mums need to hear today, that you just have to be good enough.
Yeah, and again, good enough can be many things. Again, it's not about having the perfect lunchbox. And again, you have the time, I want to do stars and things like that, and your kids love it. Why the hell not? But it's not the need. They just need to have a due, basically. Like, for the 2 first years, sometimes you struggle, like, oh my God, they are not playing with other kids. And, like my kids were very young for COVID, so they are not seeing other kids, and they're not going to learn how to socialize. And they don't need it. Until they are 2 or 3 in class, more or less. they are enough with you or your partner, or like they don't need other kids, or they don't need all these things that we feel that they are missing out. They don't need 1,000 toys. When they are so small, they don't really need toys at all. They just need you there. They're only looking for you, and they're always very happy to see you.
So Veronica, as a busy psychotherapist and a mum of 7-year-old twins, how do you manage to mind yourself?
How do I mind myself? like that for me, sometimes it's just knowing that I might leave the house not as clean as I wanted to, and so I separated. There's an area where all the toys are, so some days I clean it, some days I just go to a different room. That's a way of minding myself. I try to connect with people, I was very lucky. When the kids start crash, I got a couple of mommies that adopting in the group. So, and you may be going for a coffee with one of them, or sometimes just even send reels, on Instagram about, struggling, or that is how self-care can look. And sometimes it's just lying down watching TV with the kids. I not be actively playing, I not actively maybe doing anything, but I'm there with them, and it's just maybe just snuggling in the sofa good enough for me. It's no need to always be, I have to bring them to Emerald Park, or I have to bring them to a playground, I have to do this and I have to do that, and I have to have these massive conversations with them, or playing. I don't do imaginary play, for example. I hate it. I don't like it. It's just so boring. After 2 minutes I just want to shoot myself, no. So I do Legos, or I do other things that I might feel more enjoyable, and they know, and I tell them, look, I don't like that. I play with you 2 minutes for that, but that's it. Just so it's acknowledging that part. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to do everything right. Just be there as much as I can for them, and hoping that that's just enough.
Veronica Martinez, thank you so much for coming on to the Mind Yourself podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That is it for today's episode of Mind Yourself. If something in this conversation has resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it, because these are the conversations that matter. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the podcast, a quick rating or review really helps us to reach more people. So until next time, mind yourself.